All right, well, let's get started. Great to have you here today, Jamila. And we have known each other for a good number of years, and I've been always very impressed by your passion and energy. So thanks for joining us today. AI is developing at very high, like rapid speed. I know you and your team at code.org has been actively working on AI project in the last couple of years. There are also a lot of discussions about AI in education these days, but most of those are in the context of school, which is obviously very important. But at Create and Learn, you know that we work with parents and students directly, and I know many parents care about this topic as well. So we're doing this podcast to help them understand impact of AI and how and they can help students and help them make decisions about education as well. So, well, to get started, maybe you can tell us a bit more about yourself, about code.org, your team at code.org, and how you get here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And my name is Jamila. I actually have had quite a journey in terms of my career trajectory was concerned. I started off as a software engineer myself, and then did that for a number of years and decided to get into education. Taught in Orlando for several years, started a computer science program there and did a lot of like district level efforts there, which then led me to Code.org, where I'm currently the curriculum product manager leading our 612 curriculum team. So we work on like computer science discoveries and computer science principles and computer science A, as well as our new course that we just launched, AI Foundations. Um, so if you're not familiar with Code.org, it's a nonprofit, computer science education. Uh, Company. So like we offer curriculum and tools for K-12 across the board. Our focus is really to expand access to computer science and AI education. So we offer like free curriculum, teacher training, resources, advocacy, all kinds of things like across the board to make sure that, every student in the country and in the world has an opportunity to learn computer science and understand like the technology that they work with. So we believe that computer science is as fundamental in school as math and science. And I think now as a result, there's like an increasing number of states that are implementing graduation requirements for CS.
Yeah.
So all of that is like things that we're working on. That's what led to like us developing our AI Foundations courses to be like that kind of curriculum for the that graduation requirement. So
Yeah. And I definitely think that Cold War as a whole played a huge leadership role in getting computer science adopted in schools.
yeah.
And I think you guys' curriculum might even be the widest deployed ones in the world, right?
Yeah. I think we're definitely up there. If yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Very cool. So how do you think about big picture of education, especially for K-12 these days, given that how fast is, AI is developing, it seems to be introducing a lot of uncertainties
Yeah.
and excitement. So,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like I think even just from my own like personal and professional perspective, like just from the things that I've encountered just both in my personal life and professionally, and like, thinking about like how that's going to impact, even though she's like only, not even a year old yet, like how is that going to impact her by the time she starts school, my daughter. Um, because it definitely is like, I don't know. Every month, AI is doing something that I did, last month I thought was not possible. I was like, yeah, okay, like AI does, all this stuff really cool and really great, but it'll never be able to do this. And then like a month or two later, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. So now I just stop even making comments like that. Because, it can just it has evolved so quickly. And now I think it's gotten to a place where like I feel like education is no longer about like memorizing facts anymore, like history class memorizing all of these dates, for instance, of like, this is when this happened and this is when this happened, or, just like different formulas in math or even code, like the fact that you need to make sure that if you're writing Java, you got to have a semicolon at the end of all the lines and, all that. So I think it's just like the kind of skills that we were talking about before in terms of like making sure students become like creators and critical thinkers is becoming even more important with AI and like
Mhm.
especially with how quickly it's advancing and can do so much for them. So like teaching them about like what it means to ask good questions, like writing good prompts, what it means to really like evaluate, like critically evaluate the answers that it gives you, like not just taking, not just treating it as like glorified search engine, for instance, like
That's true.
making sure to like fact check what it gives and like recognizing biases. And I think most importantly, like helping them understand how to use it as a tool for learning and not just replacing their own thinking.
Yeah.
I think is probably like the biggest concern that I have. I think just personally and professionally, I'm just like I don't want kids to think that because it can do so much and it'll do even more tomorrow, that doesn't mean that they no longer need to think for themselves about, anything and everything that we've been,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to, I'm sure a lot of parents are doing like ChatGPT stuff with their kids already, but maybe helpful to kind of showcase a little bit of what a learning with the ChatGPT or other kind of AI
Oh
system might
yeah.
look like. Do you want to like share your screen and show us?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially as you know, of course, like Google and all these companies launched a study mode and, in theory it should help, but maybe you can show us how, how parents and students might use it.
Yeah, I was especially excited about yeah, I'll definitely show because I was especially excited about when ChatGPT and then Gemini, or maybe it was Gemini first and then ChatGPT. I don't remember the order that it
They were
happened.
very close. Yeah, it
Yeah,
almost
they
felt like
happened
within a
like
week of each
almost
other.
back to back. But like once they added these like study modes in
You want to share again? Yeah.
yeah, okay. And once they added these study modes in these tools, it just like, I don't know, changed the dynamics of things. And so I definitely would encourage, so I'm looking at Gemini, for instance, and like, so there's obviously like this deep research, which is also a really cool tool. Obviously people are, I think a lot of us are familiar with, creating videos and images. But this guided learning has been really interesting. I think also let's say, if I'm like a fourth or fifth grade student, or even a parent that, I'm like, I don't, maybe, there's a lot of parents out there nowadays where like English is not their first language. So,
Mm.
maybe typing all of your question is not, like the way to go. I use the microphone a lot in ChatGPT and Gemini. And I encourage people to do that as well, because then you can just kind of more naturally give your question. So let's say I'm a parent. So let's say I'm a parent of a fifth grader, and my fifth grader is struggling with fractions. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to help them with their homework. They've
I'm
got
sure many parents have that problem. Yeah.
yeah, like it feels like a common thing, like my fifth grader brought home some fractions homework and I have not done fractions in I don't know how long, so I'm struggling to help them too. So I might maybe just sit down with my fifth grader on Gemini and just like, okay, let's get it to help me, right? And turn it on to the guided learning. So I'm just going to start by giving it some context. And I'm going to do this with
How are you gonna try voice? That's cool.
a fifth grader who's struggling with fractions, especially with adding fractions where the numbers on the bottom are different. Can you help me? Okay. So it does a really good job also, we'll see, transcribing what I asked. Uh, so I'm gonna give it this and okay. So we're gonna warm up. Oh, so you notice how like it just immediately just like, okay, I'm gonna like help you like a tutor. Like imagine if you hired a tutor and this is what they might, kind of go through, right? So, okay, imagine you have two pizzas both cut into different slices. If you have a slice from one pizza and a slice from the other, why would it be tricky to say how much pizza you have in total? Oh, oh, I think I even struggle with how to answer that.
Okay.
Right? Like, okay, I have two pizzas both cut in different slices. I own, um,
Yeah, well, maybe we can say something like we have half a pizza from. Oh, okay, never mind. Go ahead.
hold on,
I shouldn't
hold
be
on.
talking. Taking
Uh,
my voice.
yeah, I captured your voice. I think it's because since one is one size and the other is another size, then it doesn't match up. I'm just thinking like a fifth grader would.
Yeah, I like how you ask it. It's really like a kid's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they can't even express what they don't understand very clearly some point. Yeah,
Exactly,
sometimes.
exactly. And so like, like a kid at that age, like, yeah, they don't really know how to express it in the actual like academic language, right? A fifth
Right.
grader or fourth grader is really still developing an academic language. And so AI at this point has just gotten really good at being able to support students that are in that kind of world, right? And so it just is going to keep going. So when the denominators are different, the slices are different sizes, so to add them, oh, this is the critical piece. We need to make them the same size. So what if we took those two different size pieces and recut them so all the slices were the same size? What would happen to the number of slices in each pizza? Oh, I think then that they would be the same. Let's see. Cool. So now it's like, okay, now I'm going to give you a problem to try, right? And so now as the parent, I'm going through this too with my child, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm understanding with my kid because I forgot all of this academic language around all of this too. And so now once we get through this problem together, I probably can then just go back to the worksheet that their teacher sent home and like keep going. Um, and then so it's like we need to find a number that both two and four can get into evenly. Do you have an idea what that number might be? Oh, I think it's two. Oh, wait, no. I'm going to give it a wrong answer, actually. Wait. Oh, stop recording. I'm going to give it a wrong answer just so I can. It's actually four, but that's a good guess. Can two go into four? Yes, but can four go into two? Nope. And then it's, I think, going to keep the smallest number that both. Oh, okay, right? And then, oh, I understand now. So four. All right. And then, it just keeps guiding me, right?
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
like such
yeah,
a
yeah. That's
simple.
really cool. Yeah.
Like I mean, just like when you're, with a tutor, just like when you're with your teacher, you don't expect them to give you the answer. And I think
Right.
honestly, like that's probably one of the biggest fears that as parents, as educators that we had about AI when it first launched was just like, oh my gosh, it's just going to give them the answer. And that was true for a long time. Like if I gave it that same flow. Like if I just gave it the math problem that I was doing just in a regular AI chat, it probably will just solve the problem for me. But if I
Yeah.
really am trying to use it as a tool to learn, then I can turn it into these guided learning modes that are in like ChatGPT and Gemini and probably any other AI tool at this point now. And then that way it actually like helps me learn instead of just like doing the thinking for me. Now, is it possible that I could also do the same prompting without being in guided mode? Yes. But it just takes a little bit more effort because these providers have already set up the tool to do that in that way. So I don't have to like remind it to not give me the answer.
Yeah. And I think another thing, as you pointed out earlier, that this is really like a lot of parents want to learn together with their kids and help
Yeah.
them, and they may not remember all of the details of like math or whatever from however many years back. And this is actually really nice for them to sit together
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then,
I mean,
go
especially
through it.
like I can imagine even like when I was teaching, I had a lot of students that would stay after school in my class to like work on their homework and stuff like that. And like they would ask me for help on like their history homework and stuff. I'm like, I don't remember any of those facts. So we'd be like Googling things to try to like recall because this is pre-AI days. Although now, if I was helping those same students with their homework after school, I'd probably be in this guided learning thing to help them write those history, find the facts that they needed to write their history paper and then, while they were staying in my room. So
That's true. That's true. Very, very cool. Cool. So you show like how AI can be nice learning too. And I know that you mentioned very, very beginning that you and your team have been working on teaching student AI. I think I even saw some emails coming out recently with some new launches. Um, and a teacher might be wondering, like, not the teacher, I'm sorry, I meant the parents might be wondering, like, you guys, we've been saying learning coding for a long time. Now we're saying learning AI, but what does learning AI even mean? Like, isn't that too hard for a student?
mm,
And how? how maybe you can tell them what does learning AI even mean for younger kids?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a different dynamic, right? Because like learning coding was just about like giving instructions to a computer, you know? It was just like, all right, step one, do this, step two, do this. But learning AI is deeper than that because it's more about like understanding the fact that like machines are learning patterns from data and then it's making predictions, especially when you're talking about like large language models and generative AI, right? Like it's just making predictions or generating new things. So I don't think that it means like for every student to be going into like the whole depths of like what it means to train some deep neural network from scratch. Like it doesn't mean going that far. It's just like having that understanding of how do these systems work, what their limitations are, because those things help inform how to use them responsibly and creatively, right? Because if I don't understand the fact that it's just generating based off of patterns, right? Then I'm more likely to be in that mindset of like, oh, it's doing something for me or feeling like it's creating something new, but it's not really like new per se because it's just like based off of other things. So I don't know. I guess if anything, you could say like if you were to compare it to coding, coding was learning to like speak computer, but learning AI is learning how to collaborate with a computer. Um, it could have ideas of its own. It could feel like it has ideas of its own, you know.
Mm,
But
that's
it's
true.
more of the collaboration and like how do what like what are the capabilities of that, you know, that tool that you're collaborating with. It's just like when you're collaborating with a person, right? I can only effectively collaborate. Like let's say it's me and you, Jesse, on a project, right? I can only effectively collaborate on a project with you if I understand how you prefer to work. I understand your communication style. I understand like, you know, those things. And once you understand that about a person, then like you do really well on that project together, right? Because like you know how to feed off of each other. And it's a similar dynamic, I think, with AI, where it's like once I understand how those systems work, what makes it better, what breaks it, you know, all that kind of stuff, then I know how to use it even better.
Mm, okay. So what if parents say, but what age do they learn? Like is it high school, middle
Mhm.
school, elementary school, or maybe, I haven't definitely seen curriculum in all of these range. Or maybe at different age they just learn differently. I don't know if you I know you do K-6-12. Maybe you know examples from like elementary school level as well. Let's say if they want to learn about computer vision, what does
Yeah.
learning computer vision mean for elementary school student, middle school student versus high school student? Like, is
Yeah.
there a difference?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, I don't know. I think about this like I think about the questions like that from the perspective of like what do I hope my daughter learns when she gets
Okay,
into
that's a good one. She's only one, but she grows fast. The
she's
kids
only
grows
one, but like
fast.
next thing I know, she's gonna be in elementary school, and I'm gonna be like, oh man, I should have thought about
I
this.
know you blink your eye, she's in, elementary
Um,
school.
but it's like I don't know. I think like in elementary school, I think one of the key things that's important to like a key point for kids at that age, you know, yeah, no, they can't understand like specific or like build an AI powered tool, you know, for instance. Like I wouldn't expect an elementary kid to do that. But I do think it's important for young kids because AI is like increasingly everywhere that they understand that like AI is trained on data and what that unpacking all of that, you
Mm,
know, and that like it makes mistakes sometimes, right?
mm.
Because like these tools are even on things that they use in school, you know, like their teachers are using these things. Like they think that they need to understand, like, yeah, sometimes it makes mistakes. Um, and that I think also just because we have a tendency, even though we catch ourselves to refer to AI as thinking. I mean, even in the tools, it'll say like thinking about whatever, and I'm like, you're not thinking like I'm thinking. Um, it doesn't think like a human. And so like the way that these tools are showing like that it's thinking about this and thinking about that.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
I think it's
that's true.
important for kids to understand that that is not the same. What it's doing in there when it says it's thinking is not the same as when you are thinking or when I am thinking. Because otherwise they'll see that and it's like, well, I should trust the answer because it thought about it. it thought
Hmm,
about it for 5 minutes. A kid is gonna, a little second grader is gonna think that, right? They don't know any better. And I think it's important to teach them that, like, no, just because it says it thought for 5 minutes is not the same as when you think for 5 minutes about a problem.
that's
Yeah.
true. That is true. And also, I think you're absolutely right. Like they're like we all live in an AI world these days, and them knowing that, AI makes mistakes sometimes, so they can think critically about whatever AI tells them, starting from a very young age, definitely feels like very, very important.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because then I think from there, like once they get into like middle school, for instance, they could even, at that point start like experimenting with different tools. Like maybe they are on an education-friendly version of like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever the case may be, right? And they're experimenting with those tools and noticing things about like bias and fairness and the way that they're interacting with the tools and the things that it's doing and saying and all of that. That way, by the time they get to high school, then it's like, okay, I'm going to build something with AI. I'm now going to deepen my, I've understood that it doesn't think like I do. I understand that it makes mistakes. I understand that it's biased sometimes. And now I can understand what it means to collaborate with it to build my presentation for history class next period, or this app that I want to do for my community, or something like that.
Mm, very cool. But what do you hope like most of the high school student would be able to master by the time they graduate from high school? Like in term master in terms of AI.
I think like, yeah, just being able to collaborate effectively with AI or like build things with AI support, right? Because I think
Mm,
like because of the way that AI is getting infused in society, like if we want them to be informed citizens and like have the skills to, pursue whatever career, I think we're increasingly in a world where like AI is influencing just about every job and career out there in some way. And if they don't understand how to use it effectively, like whether that's, I don't know, prompt engineering today, which might be different a month from now, but just like understanding like how to use it effectively to, solve a problem that they're trying to solve or, build a thing that they're trying to build. That feels to me like the one of the most important things. And like being able to have like those deep ethical discussions too. Like if I'm
mm,
using AI to like analyze some data for, my job, that I am also aware of the ethical consequences of that. And I, either thought about it, discussed it with people, I was transparent about it, like just kind of those different things
yeah.
too.
Yeah, definitely. I remember you guys have a computer vision class
Yeah.
for high school student. Like was a from a couple years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Well, now we're gonna add coding back into this conversation. Like I definitely have parents asking me to saying, we teach student coding is like the parent says, why does my kid still need coding? Like, do we
Yeah.
still need coding? I obviously think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm biased, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, coding isn't going away. I think it's just changing. Because like, yeah, AI can help you write some code faster, but you still have to understand the logic behind it? Um, like I know a lot of people do the comparison between like calculators and math, with the whole like the whole AI situation. We still teach math because you need the reasoning and not just the tool of the calculator, right? Um, so I think at least for a while, coding is going to still remain an essential skill, but maybe the focus itself might shift more towards like problem solving and design, and then knowing how and when to integrate AI. I think is the other thing too, is like you see on the news all the time of just like people that I don't know, you get caught in like the vibe coding hype, for instance, and they just like, oh, I vibe coded this thing, and the next thing you know, Replit or some other tool that I was using to like vibe code something deleted my entire database, or like exposed the passwords of the users in my, on my platform, or whatever the case may be, right? Like you see those situations on the news, and like you're gonna wind up in those situations if you don't understand how to critically evaluate the code. And you can't critically evaluate the code if you don't understand it to begin with, right? So, I think the more we get into the whole like, oh yeah, let's just I don't need coding, I can just use AI to just make everything for me, then the more likely we're going to be in those situations where it's like, well, social security numbers are all over the internet, or like other personal information because like AI is not going to prioritize like security and like, secure design principles or even accessibility all the time.
Mm.
So
That's really interesting. I mean, I think that's a very interesting observation because yes, AI can do things, but some of the examples you said, definitely the AI these days make a lot of those type of mistakes. And some people might say, in a couple years it will get better. It probably would get better, but there will be other
it get
issues.
better, but it'll always have some other problem.
Yeah, yeah. But it also interesting in the sense that like, yeah, a lot of time, especially for beginners, when they learn coding before, they spend a lot of time on the syntax and the basic. It's actually kind of boring, and it takes a lot of those basic learning before they actually start to be able to build interesting system. And
Yeah,
that boring, quote unquote, process, well, some people are excited about that, but most students are not. That boring initial process maybe stop a lot of people from keep exploring, but it sounds like AI is eliminating a lot of those like the basic
sure.
grinding part of things, and the students still need to understand a lot of important system level concept, but AI enable them to get to the point of building interesting stuff much,
Yeah.
much faster, but they still need to learn a lot of the basic. I mean, just to some extent, the scope of the coding they could learn at this point is getting bigger.
It's
Just
getting bigger. Yeah, yeah. I definitely think it's definitely like a wider walls kind of situation, right? Where it's like, I know, someone will say like, oh, it's lowering barriers. I don't know that it necessarily lowers barriers per se. Like, um, it just makes it just gives you a different way to have to like, to understand what you need to understand, right? But it definitely widens the walls because like instead of having to spend an entire semester just trying to understand conditionals and loops, with AI's help and support, like I can actually grasp those concepts a little bit faster because it's like, either simplifying, the explanations in a way that is like relatable to me and maybe will help like scaffold some of the code for me so that way like the parts that I struggle with, like it gives it to me piece by piece so that way I can fill in the rest. Um, and then as a result, like I can learn about more things in that semester than if I had been sitting there trying to like remember like, okay, I go if parentheses, make sure I close the parentheses, open bracket, like yeah.
indentations,
Yeah,
it's like, hey, number of space really matters.
yeah.
So.
I accidentally did spaces instead of tab here. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. Um, so I know you guys done a lot of interesting projects related to coding and coding with AI, coding use AI. I don't know if you have something handy that you can share just to show parents and saying, what are some of the coding exercises when combined with AI might look like? Just give them some like visual kind of help on what it might look like.
Let me pull up our like dance party. We have like this dance party AI.
Yeah, that's actually one of the most popular code hour articles thing for many years. So
Yeah.
sometimes getting even fancier or more interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Dance party is definitely very popular. So this is like, yeah, you code your own dance party. But we can actually do that with AI. Let's see. I think we'll do, let's do this. I think this is a whole lesson, but I'll just jump to, um, sure. Okay, I'm gonna create a dancer and code them to do new dance move. And then so we'll do um here. Uh Cat is fine. Sure. And then make my cats do the gingham. Okay, so
That's
does that whole thing. And actually, let me make sure I share the audio because it is dance party, and so you have to be able to hear the audio too. Um,
you
okay,
might need to unshare and then reshare with
I
sound.
yeah,
Um, while you're doing that, like for parents who are not familiar with the interface, this is actually I would call it IDE from Code.org for younger students to learn it. It's very easy to use. You can like snap blocks together to do all sort of very interesting things. And then a lot of the Code.org lessons are self-guided, but also the teacher can teach at the same time. So it's very easy to use as well.
yep, yep. Okay, so I switched it to I'm gonna do Born This Way by Lady Gaga instead. So I'm beautiful in my way. Okay, so
Very
now
cool. Yeah, the song came out.
this next. So this is just gonna show a little video. I'm gonna skip it. I think we can figure it out. All right, so AI can help you create fun visual effects for your dance party. So we're gonna use this generate effect block, and click on this. So the way that this particular activity works is we're just going to pick a few emojis, and then based off of the emojis, it's going to generate, the effect that is going to happen in my dance party video. So I don't know, let's do this little ta-da, maybe the rocket, and I don't know, throw a wild one in there, ice cream. It's a good combination there, rocket, ta-da, and ice cream. And then it's going to decide.
So this is using AI art image generation thing.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
then, based off of that, it decided, well, this is the best effect based off of my emojis. And then it'll show the code. I can see the code that it generated to create that effect here. I can also, what's cool about this, one of the things that we do with this activity is when you click on this learn more, you can actually see what how the AI actually made like what it used to base this decision off of. So what you see is like each of these colors map to one of these emojis. So it felt like this particular effect used a little bit of the first emoji and a little bit of the ice cream. This one it felt like used a combination of the three. Um, and then the last one it felt like was like, oh yeah, it's more equally distributed of these different emojis. So that way, like within the actual lesson itself, like part of the video is like talking about like, you know, these different factors play into its decision and like how it
That's
makes it.
very cool. That's
So,
very cool.
so I'm gonna use this effect. That sounds good. So it does that, and then now when I run, I can. When I met you in the summer. Happening. And kids love this dance party so much, especially the whole AI generating effects thing. I can maybe even add, I think, another one and maybe
Mm.
put, start layering some effects. So we'll try um, brown flag. Sure. See what
Well, it's
came up.
generating out, just thinking that once this thing like get generated, maybe the parents can kids can dance together to the
Oh
moves of the
yeah, yeah,
characters.
yeah.
Yeah, be
And so
super
again,
cool.
I can see the code that it gave, and this was the effect that it came up with. I can see like how it was um, basing this decision, how it came to this conclusion, and then use this effect. And so now I can see what instead. Hold on. Oh wait, no, I want to do this, and so that way I can, yeah, see all of this. And you can keep going through this. Like this gives you like another way for a different song. And I forget this one. Yeah, you can keep customizing the
Very,
effects as
very
well.
cool. And
So,
this also uses AI generation stuff and
mhm,
the AI
mhm.
art.
Yeah, yeah. So, definitely a cool way for students to like not only just make something fun and cool, but also get like a basic understanding of like, hey, yeah, AI makes decisions about things. This is how, this a potential way that AI, makes those decisions to kind of make those a little bit more take the abstract to be a little bit more tangible and real. Especially like this is targeted at like elementary school kids, right? So like doing that in a way where it's like, oh, okay, I understand. Like when it's thinking, it's making some comparisons here and, finding some patterns. And then based off of those patterns, then it's like, okay, well, this is the thing that you probably would want.
Yeah, very cool. So I do have some other questions about coding, especially since you are at Code.org. There's probably very few experts that can, are really qualified to answer these questions.
Yeah.
Um, I get a lot of questions from parents as well. It's like, is it too early? Is it too late? How should
Mm.
I get started? um you know Too late would be like, my kids in high school. Too early is like, I'm in elementary school, and what am I going to do in middle school? So what do you think? What do you think? Like, I don't know, how does Code.org, I mean, I'm sure Code.org has classes all of these ranges, but maybe what Code.org does, or more generally, like
Yeah.
what
I
learning
mean,
code
yeah,
is
we,
like.
at Code.org, we have curriculum for K-12. So, I mean, I think, it's pretty evident that Code.org feels like it's anytime, like never
Anytime
too
is a good
late.
time to start. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I think personally, like me personally, I don't. I think any time is a good time to start. I don't think there's any such thing as too early, but and also any such thing as too late because I mean, granted, like obviously the earlier that you start, then the deeper their, understanding and skills and stuff like that are by the time like let's say you start in elementary school, then like by the time they get to high school, then they've probably got a pretty robust set of skills and understanding about like technology versus someone not starting in high school is not going to be starting from that same point. There still might have a lot of those misconceptions about technology, how it works, going into a coding class. So I certainly think that like if it's possible to start them in elementary, whether that's through coding camps or like online classes, or something like that, if your school doesn't offer it, then, definitely take advantage of that. But it doesn't mean that like by the time they get to high school, if high school is the first time they take a computer science class, it is better late than not at all. Like I would rather they get that exposure before they go out in the real world when it's like harder to do that as an adult, you know, um, than for them to just like not learn it at all. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's actually kind of pretty special that kids can start learning. Thanks to like Code.org definitely play a big role in it. Like can start learning coding at a very young age.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
it
Well, I will
really,
say, like, Code.org, our curriculum is much like the teacher in the classroom kind of thing. So I do think, like, when it's possible to get that opportunity from a school or from after school, club or something like that, that's great. But also, like, I think it's helpful for parents to know and understand and take advantage of, like, if that isn't available at your school, taking classes with like Create and Learn and stuff like that too, I think is also valuable, where it's like kids are still getting some kind of exposure. They're learning with other kids. They're learning like modern, coding with AI and stuff like that. Like, and like it still sets them up for better success than, if they go through the entire K-12 never taking any computer science at all.
mm, that's true. Yeah. Um, so back to AI here is, my kids is older, your kids is very young, so none of
Mhm.
us are really kind of in the middle at this point.
Yeah.
But I definitely heard a lot of kids are kind of using AI to do homework these days. And,
Yeah.
if parents has concern about it, or maybe in some cases their kids may be doing it, how do you think that, like parents can help educate their kids, or kind of them saying why they shouldn't be doing homework this way? Or what do you think? I don't know. It's probably not easy to do, but I'm sure any tips would be helpful.
Yeah, and like with kids, like if you tell them not to do something, they're just gonna do it.
Okay, that's
You
true
know,
too.
so I definitely don't think I don't think taking the approach of like just sitting down with a kid to say like, no, don't use AI like this, like is going to, be as effective. But I do think like it's important for us to make sure that we are framing AI as a coach or a collaborator rather than a substitute for thinking. Because, like, personally, like I am very concerned about like kids like not building that problem solving muscle that they need, because they just, take all their questions and all their problems to AI to just like solve them for them. Um, and so like I think I think it's especially important to like if you're especially, sitting down doing their homework with them, right, and learning together with them, like demonstrating what it looks like and means to do, to use AI as a learning tool, right? Like what I was showing earlier with Gemini and the guided learning, like, sit down with them and like show them like, hey, like, oh, you don't understand how to solve this problem, like let's do this together. Or even like model that for yourself, in front of them. Kids are going to do what they see, right? And so if they see you always like, I don't know the answer to that. I wonder if AI can help me understand this. Then they'll start picking up on that and start like not only hearing you say to use AI as a collaborator, as a coach, but they see you doing it. And so then they kind of like will model that behavior, right? Kids will always imitate what they see. So,
Yeah. That's really interesting because what you said, obviously, you showed it earlier on how, can learn together. It's almost like, in the quote unquote old days. It's like we don't have something there's something we don't understand. Let's go to the library and then look
yeah,
for some books. Or, later on, it was like, let's go to Google search and see if we can find something interesting.
yeah,
And now
yeah.
it's like, hey, let's do it together and then see what AI can tell us.
I mean,
Um,
when I was in school and if I was like wanting to understand a certain, yeah, concept or whatever, like my parents were like, okay, well, let's go to the library and let's find some books about that, and like just as I got older, like that was just what I defaulted to doing. Like, oh, I'm trying to learn this particular software or this programming language or, whatever. Like I went to the library and got a bunch of books, and then Google became a thing. And then it was like, and then YouTube became a thing. So then you just started like, oh, like I think that's another example. Like one time there was something, our dryer like went out or whatever. And I found a YouTube video to figure out, like my brother and I figured out how to fix it with a YouTube video. This is like the modern day version of that, because like that's the tool that, can help you solve these problems and understand something and whatever. And like, yeah, just model how to do that and model that you don't, like that you're learning how to use AI in that way too, right? So that way so they can, your kid can see like, oh yeah, like the AI messed up because maybe you didn't frame your question properly or you didn't give it enough context and, whatever.
That's interesting. Maybe they can give each other a challenge. The
Yeah,
kids say,
yeah,
"You
yeah.
go fix the sink with AI together. I'm going to go find other XYZ with AI.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
of us can get there?"
yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely
that'd be
fix quite
fun.
a few things with AI these days ourselves as well.
Yeah,
So that's really cool. I think another thing that is important to recognize is the safety of using AI.
yeah,
Like people might think, oh, it is safer than internet in general. It is probably safer than, using internet in general because internet is just completely open. You may get there anywhere. But in reality, and then we know that AI companies, various of them at least, like to some degree, try to do things to make sure it's safe. But we have also heard news about how it hasn't been like safe or student or younger kids has been affected negatively by using AI. So
yeah,
how would you advise parents in terms of like talking to their kids and about using AI in a smart way or be
yeah.
safe with it?
I think it's like, I don't know. It's also, you remember all this like digital citizenship stuff we've been doing for years about like t teaching our kids about being safe on social media and all this other stuff. It's like, it's just a new thing that we're adding to that, about like, hey, like, the similar conversations that you have about safety and ethics with your kids about, you know, online behavior, whether that's cyberbullying or social media usage or
Mm,
strangers that you're talking to online. I think it's similar things that you're dealing with when you're talking to your kid about like using AI that, like, yeah, there's the whole question what it, gives you, like make sure you fact check it, credit your sources, and that kind of thing. But also like be mindful of what information that you're giving it, because you don't know what information that it's like storing or like using to train itself or whatever. Like don't put like, you know, personally identifiable information in there, same as you would, just like you wouldn't post that on social media, you shouldn't give it to AI. Uh,
Mm,
and I think even beyond that, in terms of like what information you're putting out there, I think one thing that we maybe haven't emphasized as much about just like internet safety in general is just like when do you use AI? When is it appropriate to use AI? And when is it not?
mm,
Like, how do you decide, like, yeah, this is a good problem to go to AI to get some help with, versus this is something that maybe I might ask it one question, but I should really own working through this problem myself or making this decision myself instead of like, defaulting that to AI.
mhm, mhm. Interesting. Yeah, I think you list a number of things that students should be careful if they were using internet before or still
Yeah.
using internet, but the same applies to AI as well. And if they have anything they're unsure of, they can, I mean, their parents are always there, talk to your
Yeah, they should
parent to
ask
say, well, AI said this. I don't really know it would be right for AI to say something like this.
right.
So yeah, their parents are always there, even, well, AI can talk to them as well.
Yeah. Especially
Okay.
like, I think there's also like increasing usage of like teens are using AI for like mental health support or advice. Um, which I think is good in some ways, but also like I think is also the reason why one of the key reasons why we need to make sure that we're teaching our kids about like questioning, like its outputs, reminding them that it does not think like a human. It's not, it's just basing its answer to you based off of data that it's been trained on. And that like, yeah, sure, this might be a helpful starting point to think about, but then take that and have a conversation with another human to either work through what it suggested to you or to confirm it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the boundary is very, very important. That's a
Yeah.
very good point. Yeah. Maybe just to, before we wrap up, a couple of more of a forward-looking things. You mentioned earlier about some like a critical thinking skills and all that, but what do you think are um some like general skills that would be pretty useful for students? Given that most of us have really no idea what the job
Yeah.
market can look like, like even 5 years from now.
I
We
mean,
know there will be opportunities, but what should they learn?
yeah, I mean, I definitely think, yeah, the critical thinking is way far more important than it probably was before. I think also like the way computational thinking is evolving
Mm,
with AI, I think this is also why like the whole question, t talk we were having earlier about like coding, where it's not necessarily about the syntax of the code itself, for instance, it's just the process and the problem that you're solving. Um, all of that is just kind of like computational thinking practices, which is also applicable beyond coding, right? Like coding is just one practice that you can apply computational thinking to. And I think when we're in this world of AI, like I think that makes computational thinking more important, where it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to solve this problem, so let me, decompose it first and break it down into smaller pieces so I can understand the steps that I need to take to solve this problem. And then as I'm doing that, okay, what patterns am I seeing in potential solutions that I might take here? And what does that mean for like how I'm going to solve this problem? So it's kind of like a combination of the critical thinking and problem solving, but I think getting more specific into like these steps as a computational thinker that I'm going to take to go through that. I think also like I think AI makes us have to think about each other as human beings in a way that we didn't before either, right? Like really being
mm,
more cautious about like, okay, this thing that I made with AI's help, who does it impact if it fails? Or if it's wrong or whatever, and like what do I do to make sure that that doesn't have a negative impact? I think you have to think about that more when you're using AI to help you make something because it is likely that it's going to make mistakes, and those mistakes could be costly on the people that they impact.
Mm, 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 mm. That's true. Like doing using AI in a very, very thoughtful way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and I like what you said is also the, keep that human connection.
yeah.
I suspect that I saw someone. Well, anyways, I saw someone say, "Hey, I just the other day, she said, I'll talk to this my new assistant for like an hour, and we had a really good conversation. At the end of it, it turns out the new assistant is like an AI. I was like, have you ever, in that hour, are you worried that you would stop talking to people because
Yeah,
your AI assistant will be your closest person because they listen to you or willing to listen to you 24 by 7.
yeah.
But I think the human connection is really extremely important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like, AI is so agreeable. So like, yeah, it's easy to have a conversation with it for an hour and like, it never disagrees with you. It never like argues with you. So you just get sucked in. It's very easy to get sucked in and then never and like not and forget to question it, where you're like, because it agreed with you. It gave you, it fulfilled all of your own like emotional needs maybe in the process of that, but at no point did like you just have to be even more cautious about like, oh, wait, are you sure? You know, like, because yeah, it's very agreeable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to end this on a positive note, I do think that AI is extremely powerful and it's probably one of those powerful tools that we can use and leverage. But definitely there are all these caveats to be aware of as we use it. So so it can bring like as much benefit as possible, but not negatively affect,
For sure.
ourselves, relationship with others, and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Totally agree. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thanks for having me.